Let's see. This is who are you here? Anonymous Wolverine. You're a low key Michigan fan, is what Google dropped.
No, Anonymous Wolverine. That literally just translates to Connor Stallions.
Hey, go! That's the fucking cold open, baby.
I'm on my PFT commenter shit.
Dude, you see he's coaching high school football now?
I did not know. I did not know that. No.
Dude, I want to say he's like getting. Do you want to guess the score of his opening game? He was he was a DC, and then he had to be the interim head coach of Detroit Mumford High School. Now, granted, they're playing one of like the year in year out powerhouses in Michigan, but do you want to guess the score?
An interim head coach in high school is not a good look. They lost by 40.
Close. They lost 60-0.
Yeah. Okay.
You had the vibes right, so we'll go with that one.
First down, goes to the sidelines, has a man wide open. It's tipped. MJ Devonshire got face. He's going to take it to the end zone.
He loves those moments. It reminds me of last year in the Garden against St. John's. And guys just stepped up. Blake hits a what the hell 3. You know, we're like, what are you doing? And he's done that all year.
Klicka out to Bizzario. It's over. The Pitt Panthers have upset Wisconsin.
Anybody if he hits his field goal. Up and got it. Sauls does it again.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simplify Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Mason Kling. And we're back, and it's time to finally preview another Pitt game. Last year, it was kind of a relief when Pitt had a bye week and didn't have to watch them. This weekend, I was sad. I was missing Eli Holstein. I was missing the boys. I was missing the fellas. But wait no longer. We're back in action this weekend.
Yeah, I was also like Saturday came. And I was actually at a music festival, so I think that helped a little bit, but I still felt like a little bit off. Like something was I was missing Pitt football. I was going through withdrawal a little bit in a good way, not like you said last year, the exact opposite.
It's so funny because like I think all of us do this, that we just look at the bye weeks and go, okay, this is when we can do things that aren't football. And I was doing the same thing. And
Yeah.
like I was seeing the score updates for the Bama UGA game, and I was like, oh man, I wish I was watching this one. I did catch the highlights of that one. That was fucking sick.
That was a crazy game. Admittedly, I didn't watch a lot of games live, but it was a heck of a Saturday to tune back into later and just see everything that happened after the fact. It was a wild Saturday.
Yeah, we'll get into that. By the way, Kent is not with us this week. Unfortunately, he has been named in the indictment against Mayor Eric Adams. He cannot be with us. He is currently in the Situation Room in New York City. And let's just say Kent was stacking up those Turkish airline miles. He's been in Istanbul several times over the production of this podcast. And it's time to come clean. We are 100% funded by the Turkish government.
A couple of Eric Adams sleeper agents.
We're not a couple, baby. We're a throuple.
Yeah. Yep.
There we go. Before we talk about football, real quick, Pitt news in other sports. Volleyball, men's soccer, still number one. Volleyball is unanimous this week after beating the fuck out of Georgia Tech on the road. Top 15 Georgia Tech on the road. They're not a wagon. They're not even a freight train. This is straight up a war machine. And I think I'll be able to get to a game this fall. Usually it doesn't work out. Usually they're not home at St. Thomas football, which for someone who doesn't live in Pittsburgh is kind of tough.
Yeah.
And they never played Maryland. If they played Maryland, I would go every year, but whatever. They don't play Maryland. Soccer keeps it rolling. I think they beat Virginia Tech 2-0 on the road. And then in basketball, injury news in the preseason, something we're kind of used to at this point for Pitt basketball. Amsel Dalalic is out for 6 weeks, was announced. I think right after we recorded last week. So he's out 6 weeks, but he should be set to return as soon as they're gearing up to start the season. Actually, you know what? We didn't even talk about Pitt basketball last week, did we?
We missed the schedule release by literally like 20 minutes of our recording.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me pull this up here because I totally did my research here. Now, we've known about the ATA conference, just to sort of hit on the highlights here. They open up, exhibition with Point Park. Their first real game that counts is home against Radford. All these bye games you try and just get ready for. It's Radford, Murray State, and Gardner-Webb. You have the Backyard Brawl in Pittsburgh. That's an 8 p.m. tip that was announced. So we might be able to hit the volleyball, basketball double whammy that weekend.
Yeah.
We're all going up for. Okay, just keep your eye on that. We're planning here. Then you go to the Green Bar. You play VMI, LSU, and then UCF or Wisconsin, and then Ohio State. So that, and then your ACC SEC challenge. By the way, that against Mississippi State was a 9:15 p.m. tip. Every time Pitt basketball is a 9 o'clock tip, Satan fucking smiles. I get that it's in the Central Time Zone, but fuck, this sucks. I think this is the only 9 o'clock tip of the entire challenge.
Mississippi State, didn't we play them in the tournament when we made it 2 years ago? I remember that game being an absolute play-in game, absolute rock fight.
Yeah, that was literally the worst game I think I've ever watched. That was the game where, I think we won 52-51 or something disgusting like that.
It was crazy.
And it was my heart was 160 the entire game. They almost came back into it. It was Jamarius Burton ended up sealing the win there, but there is some history there. They are the SEC's Virginia, which is all kinds of awful. But they did announce the ACC schedule. Like I said, we kind of knew these games. Some of the times got announced. The early ACC game is the opener is at Virginia Tech, 2:00 on a Saturday, December 7th. The Virginia Tech Stadium has evil energy about it. I can't wait to lose this one in horrifying fashion, being that it's early in the year.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair. We have to go to Virginia Tech for our first ACC game. But at that point, we'll already, at least our non-conference is good this year. So hopefully by that point, we'll be fully ramped up and ready to go. No cupcakes. There are a couple cupcakes, but less cupcakes in this year's non-con.
I think they're a reasonable to acceptable amount of cupcakes is what I would call it. You got your 3 ramp-ups. You've got the Backyard Brawl, the tip-off, Ohio State, and the non-cons they had pretty late. And then Mississippi State, which for all intents and purposes, I hate them as a team, but they're still a solid game.
Yep.
Hopefully. Then sort of going through the highlights of the ACC schedule, we get both Cal and Stanford at home after New Year's Day. You get Duke on the road January 7th. You've got Clemson at home January 18th. Syracuse at home, or Syracuse on the road January 25th. UNC at home on the 28th. So right there, sort of those 4 teams in January is really kind of the tough part of the schedule. You go into February, you've got Virginia at home, UNC on the road in the span of a week. Those are a Monday and Saturday game. The newcomer, SMU, you get on the road. Out of the 3 new teams, that's the only one you play on the road. So, again, light on the travel there. Get Miami at home. Always a pretty after that. Well, Syracuse at home. And then you finish out the year sort of with Louisville, which is Louisville going to be good? Are they still going to be really bad? I have not been following college basketball as much as I should. They're one of the 2 teams we play twice. Or one of the number of teams we play twice. I have not done my math. Other than that, though, it's a fairly manageable schedule, I think.
I mean, we know the ACC is always going to be a little bit of a gauntlet. You're going to have stretches, like you said, in January there where we play kind of a bunch of good teams back to back. but that's what you sign up for when you're playing ACC basketball. And I think this team will be ready for it. They're, a couple guys coming back that have played the ACC schedule before, a couple newcomers. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be ACC basketball.
Yeah, also I think a big thing, you said, you've got guys returning obviously from last year's Pitt team, but Cam Corrin, the new center forward, is
Yeah,
also an ACC experienced player. And I
yep.
think that, go ahead.
I was just gonna say experience doesn't have to be just from Pitt's previous roster. Like bringing in guys that have played the ACC schedule, and Florida State has had some good years, some bad years, but he can being kind of I don't know, one of the more like Pitt. Like every time we play him, I feel like he dominates Pitt. So to have that kind of guy on our team now for the ACC run will be cool.
Yeah, and I will say, just a quick glance at the schedule. I mentioned the 9 o'clock tips where Satan smiles on a weeknight. Pitt's got 3 of those this year. That is the game at Florida State. The home against UNC is a 9 o'clock tip, which I don't understand. Usually that's when you're in Central Time. Because, it's Florida State and Dallas, the other two, and those are both Central Time Zone schools. But ESPN will pay for making that game a 9 o'clock tip. That's all I'm going to say on that.
I hate it. I dislike it now because I'm old and I like to go to bed early. But in college, there was something nice about, I don't know, like an excuse to stay out late on a Tuesday night when it was game day and you would go and to the Pete at like 8 o'clock.
Yeah, you're
something nostalgic
right
about it. Yeah,
you're 100% right. I still hate it because if I stay up past the first half, I get to work the next day. I'm like, I was straight up zombie, man.
That's what the 9 o'clock tips separate the men from the boys.
Legitimately,
literally.
the men get sleepy at halftime, and the boys are out rocking in the open zoo. And girls don't.
Yes. Yeah.
Boys and girls. All right. Let's talk some football real quick. Week 5 recap. Pitt did not play, so we're going to go around the ACC first, then talk about some other big games around the college football world. Start off Friday night, Virginia Tech 34, Miami 38. Virginia Tech loses on that last-minute Hail Mary that wasn't. I saw the replay. I looked at it for a lot of time. I still cannot figure out what the fuck happened on it. The explanation given was that an out-of-bounds Miami player touched the ball, so it was a dead ball. I still could have seen it going either way because the Virginia Tech guy caught it and then went to the ground. I think my main takeaway from this game, because I actually watched a good amount of this one, being that it was on Friday night. Cam Ward still has his acute bozo gene syndrome. He had 2 picks and a fumble in this game that really kept Virginia Tech in it. Miami was kind of looking like it was going to pull away, and then obviously Cam Ward's a really good player, but I think all this does is prove that Virginia Tech might be kind of okay, even though they have 3 losses already. If they're going to be a hard out, and Miami still has the capability to lose a game that they shouldn't, because coming in, I think Miami was favored pretty heavily in this one. So who knows?
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. Is that it did come down to that last play of the game. And I don't know, kind of sucks that Virginia Tech, couldn't pull off some magic, but Miami really shouldn't have let them be in that situation. They almost lost on a Hail Mary because they didn't play well leading up to that point. So,
yeah, their run defense was not good all night. I mean, Drones and Basil Tootin were running all over the place. That's something to keep in mind going forward with Miami.
Yeah, the dark horse Virginia Tech team that people were talking about all offseason finally showed up. I feel like it might be it might just be a little too late for them.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to win the conference to be any sort of dark horse at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can do it, just because I said Cam Ward has a bozo gene. Kyron Jones also has crazy ass bozo gene. We didn't talk about this last week because I forgot about it, but the safety he had against Rutgers, where he just falls backward, throws the ball out of bounds. And then I think he had another pick in this game that just bounced off one of his players into another Miami player's hands. He just has the funniest turnovers of all time.
Yeah, Some people have the turnovers where it's just, I don't know, it's a bad throw, but it's not funny. He somehow does it, and it's hilarious every time.
He's a physical comedy quarterback, and that's what you love to see out of college football. Other places around the ACC, Louisville 24, Notre Dame 31 on the road. Louisville gets behind early. Looking at sort of the rankings, I think Louisville has a little to no wiggle room moving forward for any sort of playoff hopes. I know they're very highly regarded and ranked in terms of the ACC, but they've really got to. I think the Notre Dame game would have given them a lot more wiggle room to get in sort of as an at large. Now it's a non-conference game because they're still obviously in it for the title. They're undefeated in conference play, but that one just sort of it makes them have to play a lot more perfectly, pretty much. Stanford 14, Clemson 40. Welcome to the ACC. Stanford, after beating Syracuse, they get the real treatment of just getting whooped by Clemson. BC beats Western Kentucky 21-20 at home. They were without quarterback Nick Castellanos. Almost lost this one, but didn't. So I was keeping my eye on this one on the score apps on Saturday. As well as NC State 24 and IU 17. Both of those teams, BC and NC State, having really bad performances against G5 teams. NC State looks like maybe the worst team in the ACC if it wasn't for Wake Forest losing at home 41-38 against Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns, they were the only ACC team to lose this weekend at home. Holy Cross, Syracuse beat Holy Cross 42-14. Who cares? FCS game. SMU beat the fuck out of Florida State 42-16. I'm laughing. DJU is, I think, out with a hand injury, which I think is a benching. And then last game I want to talk about, UNC 20, Duke 21. This has some key points for us. Duke scores 21 points in the final 21 minutes of game time after being shut out in the first half. Duke is now 5-0. Give them their flowers, Didn't think they'd be that good, but down the stretch, the UNC run defense just absolutely folded, and their quarterback, Jacoby Criswell, was picked off to end the game. I think that, honestly, that kind of confirms my priors about UNC. We talked about it before the season, but I didn't think their quarterback situation was very good. And even though Criswell, I think, threw for a bunch of yards in this game, he's no Drake May. He was their QB3 coming in, and that defense is still pretty fucking atrocious because, Duke's passing attack isn't really that spectacular with Malik Murphy, but they still just ran the ball down their throats to win the game. And giving up 21 unanswered over the final quarter and change is not what you want to see.
Is Mac Brown still the head coach?
I'm seeing
any retirement any retirement threats from him this week?
I mean, if anything, he's got to retire after this season because not only has he given up a 70 burger to JMU where they scored pretty much at will and in any phase of the game, they scored on offense, defense, and special teams in that game 2 weeks ago. Then you blow a 20-0 lead to your rival Duke.
That one hurts. The fans aren't going to like that.
You're 3-2. You're obviously the first season you don't have an NFL quarterback on the roster. Everything just starts to look a lot worse around the edges. The margins are really thin because UNC, all they seem to do is just stockpile talent and then not do anything with it. So, I mean, listen, Omarion Hampton is still a very good running back that we'll talk about later, but I don't think this UNC team really has it.
Yeah, and they're going to, next week this week they have us. So I would love to be one more notch on Mac Brown's retirement tour belt.
I'll talk about this later, but I do have a question for you about the retirement there.
Okay.
Quick hitters. We've got 4 other games here to talk about, just ones that I saw around the weekend. Talk about the big one last, but Kentucky upsets Ole Miss at home 20-17. That's pretty big for the SEC in the playoff. Kentucky, after years of almost upsetting top 10 teams, has done it. Congratulations to Kentucky. Arizona 23, Utah 10. Cam Rising is out again. Bad for our bet. I now have no idea who's going to win the Big 12, especially if Cam Rising is going through the whole rigmarole of is he going to play, is he not going to play, and they end up just never playing. So
Arizona might just go and win the Big 12.
It's probably, if I had to pick, gun to my head, Kansas State. They beat the fuck out of Oklahoma State, so I can see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on Oklahoma State though. Like I know they beat the shit out of them, but I don't know. I think that conference is still wide open.
I would say they're probably going to produce a 2-loss champ.
I could definitely see that. I could see that.
Next one
Hell,
here.
even
Okay.
BYU. Even BYU is, in the mix there a little bit.
I know. BYU is weird to me because they're undefeated. They're 5-0. I want to say they're like one of a couple teams that conference lost and still unbeaten. But they keep getting outgained in their games, and they feel like they never want to win them. Like the K State win, they had a bunch of turnover luck in that crazy ass punt return, and I think they got outgained by 100 yards by Baylor, but they still just find ways to win. It's too early to tell if this is sort of like overperforming or just they have a rabbit's foot up their ass. I think if they keep it up, they might just be a lucky ass team like TCU a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
so
could be. But
that's
that'll
fair.
be that conference is gonna those last couple of weeks are gonna be fun because there's gonna be a lot of shifting, I think.
Oh yeah, there's going to be so many scenarios on your TV about who gets into the title game.
Yeah.
It's going to be an all time. There are Fox leagues. All Fox or an ESPN graphic. It's going to be great. Um, moving ahead, just sort of talking about the G5 title race real quick. Boise State beat the piss out of Wisconsin, 45-24, on the back of the living first down Ashton Genty, who reminds me a lot of Izzy. I think that's a little bit of bias as a Pitt fan, but the way he runs and never goes down and then hits that second gear. I think he had 4 touchdowns on the day, and he's averaging 10.9 yards per carry.
That's an insane stat.
And through four games, he did it against Oregon, Washington State, 20 carries a game, and he's still averaging 10 per touch.
Yeah, his whole celebration is the Heisman thing, right? Like he's making his case. So he's not going to win it, but he might be a finalist. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know because thinking about the Group of 5 team, I think it's probably gonna be between them and UNLV, who I think they beat Fresno State really bad. I think they're the 2 best G5 teams, and if he ends up bringing Boise to the playoff with these stats, he's averaging towards 10 yards a carry. I think he's got 10 touchdowns on the year already. I know the Heisman has become a QB award,
Yeah,
but I think not giving it to him would be like malpractice.
yeah, but it's all about the narratives too. That would be a good narrative, and that would help him. But the quarterback award, we'll see. I'd love for it to be a running back award. Let's be honest. Actually, Travis Hunter should probably win the Heisman if we're talking about the best player in college football. But
Yeah, I hate admitting it. You're right, but fuck Colorado. I'd
yeah,
rather see a running back wearing that Boise blue wear it. That would be sick.
oh for sure, he would be the cooler one. But if you're doing like a blind resume thing, give it to the guy that plays 122 snaps a game. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think they're probably equally as important to their team success. Like Boise would not be doing this without Genty. Colorado, they probably don't have as potent of an offense and a defense without Hunter. He's their best player on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Just give it to the running back though. I think we should. I think we need to move away from the running backs don't matter crowd, and just give it to a running back to annoy them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine. I'm more than fine with giving it to a running back. I think there needs to be more of that in the mix. College football is better when running backs are in the mix.
Running backs, defensive players, just no more 4 quarterback only ceremonies in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my presidential platform. Then game of the weekend, probably one of the best college football games of all time. Alabama 41, Georgia 34. This one was a little stop and start. Alabama gets out to a 30-7 lead and then lets it get away from them. I think Georgia goes up 34-31. And then true freshman Ryan Williams, you've probably seen the play already where he spins twice, one play, I think 67 yards. Alabama takes back the lead and never gives it up.
They always say players, like, I think almost kind of an overused analogy sometimes is like, oh, he's got video game speed or like video game moves. He actually does. He is insane to watch. He's a walking highlight reel, and he's the youngest player on the field. Like, it's just he's gonna get drafted when he's like 20 years old.
Yeah, it's like a Braylon Allen situation with that.
Yeah. I haven't done the math, but I'd be interested to see if he'll be younger than Braylon Allen when he gets drafted. But teams, I mean, he's going to be, unless something crazy injury wise happens, he's going to break probably a lot of like receiving records in college, I would think.
Yeah. And I mean, other things from this game, I mean, like you said, Ryan Williams is like, he's a freak, and he still might not be the best wide receiver out there right now. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State is doing disgusting things. I don't know if we talked about this off show or on the air, but Jalen Milroe looks like a totally different quarterback. He looks like smart. He's not making a lot of dumb mistakes, not holding on to the ball too long. Like, I think we want to talk about this off air, but we were talking about, if there's one coach in the country that could fix Jalen Milroe, it was going to be Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that he did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this game, and they're like, if you like Alabama and you bet Alabama, you might as well throw a Heisman ticket on Milroe too, because the way he's been playing, and if he has like a big win over Georgia, that is his Heisman moment. The number, I mean, it's there. His path to Heisman is there, which is crazy. If you said that like at last year, you'd kind of be like, yeah, okay.
I know, because like you would think like his path to the Heisman would be like, oh, he's like the craziest dual threat who sometimes hits those deep balls. But no, he's now just a true dual threat. He's hitting like the throws he didn't last year. And I mean, they were shredding the Georgia defense for that first half and then some. On the flip side, I mean, the way Georgia gets back into this game is that they were picking on Bama's freshman corners. But it was actually another freshman, I'm forgetting his name now, but that ended that game with the pick in the end zone for Bama. I will say Georgia's offense, obviously in the first half, but without Brock and without Ladd McConkey, looks markedly worse.
Yeah, they're not the juggernaut of years past. Still very, very good. Don't get me wrong, and they could still win the national championship, but they look more human than they did before.
You know what it is? Like, obviously, they have a ton of talented players and like guys that can just make plays. Like, they came back from being down 23 points. Like, they're still a very talented team. They still have a lot of pieces on offense. They don't have a guy. And the other thing is that Carson Beck has a really bad tattoo sleeve. And I think that hurts them a lot.
That's a downside in the vibe. You can have that if you're, balling out and the guy, but when you're not, it's a tough look.
It's such a tough look.
All right, so I had to pull up the Heisman odds, just because I was curious after last week. So Jalen Milroe is going to be your favorite here at plus 225, and then it jumps the whole way up to Travis Hunter is the next highest at like the plus 500 mark, depending on your book, and then third option Cam Ward, fourth Ashton Jancy.
Is Ryan Williams listed? Could we have another Bama wide receiver win it?
I'm not seeing Ryan Williams.
That's all right.
No, I'm not seeing odds on him. So
I think they just put him out on Eli, right? I know that Kent was looking at that. I don't know if it's every book, but I think he got one on. One on
Eli
Eli.
Holstein is on across all books is plus 15,000. So do with that information what you will. But yeah, I mean, he's on there. He's on the list. It's pretty high odds, but get it
That's
now.
all we're asking for.
Yeah,
Yeah, get it now. Now, speaking of Eli Holstein, are you ready to talk some Week 6 Pitt preview?
let's do it.
All right. Pitt goes to UNC 12 o'clock on ESPN2. Nice little noon kick for the away game. Getting that national TV slot, even if it's the ESPN2 broadcast. I prefer it to the ACC network because they have less editing goofs cutting back and forth to the game. Now, a little bit of just some non-football things. Pitt has never won a game in Chapel Hill. They're 0-7
That's
all time
crazy.
against.
That's
They're
crazy.
0-7 all time.
It makes sense though if you think about even just like recent history. They've kind of been boogeyman for us, especially on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just pull up the Winsipedia here because I can probably just tell some like. So obviously, the last time I played at Chapel Hill was the the game where they just beat the hell out of us once the rushing attack stopped working. But I mean, geez, these are so bad. But the last three games before that was 38-35, 37-36, and 40-35. So in ACC history, of the 4 games we played in Chapel Hill, 3 have been decided by 1 score, and 2 have been decided by field goal or less.
Yeah. Yeah, high scoring games too, which I think we're going to get again this week.
Yeah. But I will say, Pat Narduzzi has an excellent record as a road favorite. Pitt was -2.5 when I was doing these notes yesterday. I think he has like a 600 win percentage as a road favorite, but I think that's well earned, and we'll get into why. We'll start with UNC. Now, as we were talking about earlier, UNC is on their third quarterback. His name is Jacoby Criswell, or I guess they're QB3 going into the season. I don't think he's very good. I don't think any of UNC's quarterbacks were that good coming into the season. However, he's working behind a pretty bad O-line. That does not matter for the running back, though. Marion Hampton, he had something like 1,600 total yards last year, or even more, but he's fantastic at running back. I have to... Yeah, I mean, through 5 games, Hampton's already got 682 yards or 658 yards on the ground, 6 scores, averaging about 5 yards a carry. As far as their receivers go, why don't I click into this? They've got J.J. Jones and Brian Nesbitt are sort of their leading guys, and you got John Copenhaver, who's a pretty serviceable tight end, but not the greatest line protecting Criswell, and Criswell already is posting a 6-3 touchdown to interception ratio. There are ways to get him to make mistakes and ways to make them pay for that, because the UNC defense is a 12-pack of ass. Through 5 games, they are giving up an average. When did I see that? They're giving up an average of 350 yards per game. Now, some of that is like, they're generating 450, but they've already played their G5 teams and their FCS team. Giving up 17 touchdowns, 8 of those through the air. How does that math work? They give 8 through the air, 7 on the ground. They must be counting defensive and special team touchdowns. Anyway, giving up 230 yards through the air, 120 on the ground. And honestly, I think that this Pitt team, if nothing else, is built to pick on teams with bad defenses.
Yeah. I don't know that we've played a great defense yet. We've played a couple good ones, maybe, but we took a lot of good defenses and made them look not great. We'll be interested to see what we do with this kind of opportunity this week. So we can really open it up and put up a ton of points again.
Yeah, I think that this offense overall is really good at putting the secondary in conflict. Obviously, with what Duke showed in the running game against UNC last week, I think that a fully healthy Des Reed,
Oh,
who
yeah.
Bender is confirmed is going to be back. I don't think they had any word on Derek Davis after he left the Youngstown State game. But you've got you got Des Reed. Daniel Carter looked really good. He looked really fast. Even Shane Obuko can be sort of a gadget player on the ground. And then, just it's a matter of getting the ball to the open guys, which they have not failed at doing at pretty much any point this season. I think the keys to the game here, obviously, other than just keep it rolling on offense, because Pitt defense is still young. They're still going to have their glitches. They may be able to sort of, I hope out of the bye week, they're going to at least see some improvement on the D line. They kind of need to wake up and start creating more pressure, more sacks, because the linebackers and the safeties, for as good as they've been, the D line is not really helping out the corners that much. And speaking of that, PJ O'Brien, one of the starting safeties, is going to be sitting that first half for a targeting call against Youngstown State. Cruz Brookins, redshirt freshman, who has impressed so far this year, will be probably getting a lot of playing time at that second safety position. He's already been getting some. He had a pick against West Virginia. But I think other than getting pressure on Criswell, you just got to keep Hampton contained as much as possible. He's probably going to make a play or two, but limiting their ground game with Hampton to at least try and force Criswell into some bad throws, because you can make him throw some.
Yeah, if it like having the extra time to prepare, I agree with you. Would really like to see offenses looked great. I think you're right. The D line is probably the best place we can improve right now, or I get like the most needed improvement right now. So what I'm hoping is that after a long week, a bye week, at a time where your offense is going to put up a bunch of points, now have the defense step up and kind of take that next step to really limit them. And because I think like a dominant win will kind of put us on the map of probably we'll probably get rankings. So I think like the more quality of the win, the easier that will be. And the best way to do that is through the defense.
Yeah, and I mean, we were already ranked, I think, 27th this week, just out, or I guess 28th with the weird tie with Texas A&M at 25. But we were the second team out of the top 25. I think that a win over UNC that doesn't involve a crazy second half comeback would sort of turn some eyes. And then just sort of looking at the computers, which I like to do, SP Plus, which is Bill Connolly's, who I think is probably the best advanced metrics. He has this game as a virtual toss-up. He has UNC favored by 0.3 points. And we know that I've talked about this before, but the nature of Pitt's wins, being that they come back in the second half so often they've been down late, does sort of factor against them when it comes to advanced metrics. They recognize the offense is good. They know the defense has some work to do, but a lot of the lag you're seeing with Pitt in these advanced metrics is due to the nature of their wins. So I guess it would be nice just to have a win that isn't, me freaking out about coming back from multiple scores in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's as fun as that is, it would be it would be nice to not have a heart attack on my couch this Saturday.
100%. I think it's totally possible. I think that the offense is going to keep rolling. I think that with these linebackers and safeties, if the D-line can pretty much get any push this week, if they stop a Marion Hampton, I don't know what UNC has. Chris Paul's probably going to throw a pick or two. And I think that I think that is more likely than not that Pitt rolls out of Chapel Hill with their first win in the stadium ever at 5-0.
Yeah, I think that's definitely on the table. I also I don't know. I think just because of last year, I'm trying to temper my expectations, but I feel like whenever I get too high on Pitt football, they come crashing down, and I really just don't want that to be this week.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. This
Um,
would be a bad week to do it.
yeah, coming off a bye, like UNC's not at a great spot. Um, like it seems like a bunch of things are going our way, and that's what worries me. I'm like, this is too good right now. But if they go in and take care of business, like I think we know they can. Let's just play our ball. We'll be 5-0, probably ranked, and on to another couple winnable games.
Yeah, history says they might come out flat for this game. I feel with the way the offense is playing, it's hard for me to believe that they come out flat. Maybe they have a drive or two that stalls. I guess the only other thing I like to see is I know the fast-paced offense works really well, and it's been doing wonders for this team. I like to see a little bit more time possession from this team. The split in the Youngstown State game, granted, it was Youngstown State, so they could do whatever they wanted. That's not going to work against UNC unless you're scoring like you are against Youngstown State, which is a little bit hard to do when you're playing against UNC's athletes who, granted, I don't think they're very good at the college level, but they're still athletes.
Yeah, it'll have to be a more paced game, I would say.
I actually am curious. What were the splits like in the West Virginia and the Cincinnati game? West Virginia was pretty even. West Virginia held the advantage 31-28. Cincinnati
Probably had the advantage.
36-23.
Yeah.
Big advantage for Cincinnati. Kent State, they held the ball for long, less 32-27. So
we haven't won the possession battle in a game yet. Is that what I'm hearing?
that would be correct.
Which is fine because we're winning, but I know where you're coming from.
It's fine because we're winning. It is. I don't know if it's full on concerning yet, because if we were losing, then it would be obviously a concern. But it is sort of it's a back of the head worry, I'd say.
Yeah.
Given how the defense has looked, and I think some of the reasons that the defense doesn't look great towards the end of games is because they've been on the field for a lot more time than the offense has. The one game the defense really steps up in the the Cincinnati game, they started eating more time off the clock, but in the West Virginia game, that was the closest time possession we've had the entire season, and they ended up making that clutch play. Maybe just, I don't know if slow it down is the right word to say, but just be mindful of how much time you're letting the defense be on the field, I suppose. I guess that's a little easier with Des Reed back when you've got your top running back.
Yeah, that hoping that'll help.
Yep. Anything else?
No, we covered all the storylines I can think of.
Let's go make Mac Brown deny his retirement again.
Yes.
All right. Other games, let's do some ACC watch list. Friday night, Syracuse goes to UNLV, 9 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. I think Syracuse loses this one. UNLV is an absolute wagon. I think Kyle McCord stinks. And I say that UNLV gets to, I want to say 6-0 at this point.
I think that would make them 5-0.
Do they have 5 or 6?
I think they had a bye. They've been in the news a bunch, obviously, for some NIL stuff, but
they looked better after they lost the quarterback who quit the team.
Yeah. So they're, like you said earlier, they could be that group of 5 team that makes it in. This would be a good win for their resume in that, I believe. Even though we're not super high on Syracuse, I think it's still a solid win.
Yeah, I mean, a Power Five win is a Power Five win. Fair or unfair in the eyes of the committee. If they get this, it would be their third Power Four win of the year. Other games moving into Saturday, SMU goes to Louisville, 12 o'clock on ESPN. I think this one is pretty important in terms of the ACC title race. The loser here has a pretty notable outside path to the title game. Just being that there's not a lot of opportunities for either of these teams to lose farther down the schedule. I know that Louisville plays us and I believe Clemson, but I think that this is just purely for conference race. Standings and footholds, and also I think that's probably the best game of the early window because the other ones are BC at UVA, 12 o'clock on the ACC network, and then the ACC Toilet Bowl, Wake Forest at NC State for who is the worst team not named Florida State. Moving to 3:30, one game here, Virginia Tech at Stanford. No thoughts here. Virginia Tech probably should roll. Stanford, doesn't really have the horses. Although it might be weird going across the country to play this one.
West Coast game.
And then the night games here, Clemson at Florida State, 7 o'clock on ESPN. This usually is a really good game. This one is going to get really ugly. Like I mentioned, DJU isn't even starting to go into their backup because of a hand injury to DJ. Clemson's going to really roll here, I think.
They're 14.5-point favorites. I think I like Clemson.
That is not enough points. Duke goes to Georgia Tech at 8 p.m. on the ACC network. No real thoughts here. Duke could lose this one. Georgia Tech's got a good offense. Duke could also be 6-0, so who knows? And then ACC After Dark, Woke versus Coke, Miami at Cal, 10:30 on ESPN, the college game day game.
That's an awesome name for this. Hopefully it's a budding rivalry, Woke versus Coke. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you come up with that, or was that something you saw on Twitter?
Okay.
I was going to say I need to give you some credit if you came up with that because that's awesome.
I wish I came up with that, but I saw that, and of course I had to steal it. Props to whoever said that. I don't remember who. I don't know if it's going to be a good game. Miami has showed that they can lose to anybody. They can also beat the hell out of anybody. You never know which Miami you're going to get.
Yeah, I think if they didn't have that kind of, not stinker, but that scare last week against Tech, this number's a lot bigger. They're 10-point favorites going to the West Coast. But I don't know. Cal's hung around in some games too. So this could, like we said, it's ACC After Dark. Shit could get weird.
Yeah, I mean, Cal, I think, is coming off a bye week too. And this is the inaugural ACC After Dark game. I'm
some crazy shit's going to happen.
I honestly think like we're going to inherit some of that Pac-12 voodoo and something weird is going to happen in this game, whether that's an upset or just something very weird or a close game. Who knows? But
I might take Cal just because this game has the you missed a couple bets earlier in the day. Everybody's going to be betting on Miami, just chasing their losses a little bit. Would be great for Cal to just come in, and I don't know if they win, but at +10 might throw something on there just to get into the weirdness.
All right, I like that idea. Move ahead to other games of note on the weekend while you're not watching Pitt at noon. TV2 probably Mizzou at Texas A&M. ABC 12 o'clock. It's ranked on ranked. Pretty solid game outside of the SMU Louisville game on ESPN. Navy Air Force. Speaking of the G5 title race, Navy and Army are combined 8-0 right now. Air Force is bad, but the service academy schools always play really close games against each other, no matter the quality of either of the teams. Pretty big test for Navy, looking at their first AAC title berth since 2019, possibly a playoff spot. And right now, it's early, but we do run the possibility of Army-Navy deciding a playoff spot in the AAC title game and then immediately having a rubber match to beat the shit out of each other the next week at the Army-Navy game.
Has there ever been a double Army-Navy game?
No, sir.
Because I'm sure there's been times where maybe Navy or Army has played in that conference championship, but I don't.
So, Navy has been a part of the AAC since the mid 2010s, and
Army's
Army
newer.
has been independent since
That's
like the
right.
90s.
That's right.
So they would always play each other in like I think it would be like week 15 they would technically call it. So this would be the first time they would ever, theoretically play twice in a season. Like they won't even play in the regular season because they're like, no, we've got Army Navy. You're not
Yeah.
fucking with this.
Yeah. That would be. I don't know if our country can handle that.
God, that would be awesome. I'm personally rooting for that in the AAC.
Yeah, that would be a cool storyline.
Moving ahead, Mississippi at Ole Miss at South Carolina, 3:30 ESPN. Could probably get stupid, probably get pointsy. 4 o'clock, Rutgers at Nebraska on FS1. Rutgers running back Kyle Monangai is a ton of fun to watch. They just kind of make those guys in a lab right now. Not going to be the greatest game. It is your classic Big Ten slop fest, but it's on. It's a pretty weak window. Speaking of running backs, Utah State goes to Boise State at 7 p.m. on FS2. Just watch this for Ashton Genty. We talked about him earlier. He's special. If you liked Izzy, you're going to like Ashton Genty. You've got JMU at ULM on ESPNU in the same time slot. Big for the G5 playoff berth. JMU is 4-0, looking for that Sun Belt spot. ULM is also 3-1. They were supposed to be really bad, but they're 3-1. That's very nice for them. And then we've got a title game rematch, 7:30 on NBC. Michigan goes to Washington. Michigan's looked really shaky the last 2 weeks, and Washington is favored at home in this game.
You have a pick?
I think that, like, the Michigan can't throw the ball. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Washington lost 2 games now, both on sort of late game failures to score. They lost to Wazoo in Seattle, and then they lost at Rutgers last Friday. I think that Michigan has just been playing. They've been playing with their food with teams that just aren't as good as them. Sorry. They let Minnesota back into the game. They almost lost to USC. Well, USC is good, but like they almost let Minnesota back into the game when they're up, by 20 points. I think that UW has a pretty good offense. Michigan is dealing with some injuries, and I think that UW can get the Huskies can get the ball out fast enough to punish Michigan's corners who aren't named Will Johnson. And Michigan can still run the hell out of the ball, but Alex Orji can't throw. He's the black. He's the black Phil Dracovic.
Yeah. So does that mean Washington? Is that your pick here?
My gut reaction is Washington here. Yeah,
I'm with you. When I saw this line, or I guess when I saw this matchup before I saw the line, I honestly thought Michigan was going to be favored just because they have that 10 next to their name. But then when Vegas has Washington favored, it seems like one of those lines to me where it's like they know that Washington might actually be the better team here because of all the stuff you just said. So I'm on the Huskies as well.
Yeah, I just think that the fact that they can't throw and the fact that they just, they have been pretty conclusively losing the second half of these games. If Khalil Mullings doesn't have that crazy last drive against USC, they don't win that game. If they don't have that penalty called on the onside kick for Minnesota, probably lose that one too because they've just been getting beat the entire second half. Yeah, I just think Washington is they just have a more competent offense, even though they've got 2 losses next to 2 losses already. I just don't think that Michigan can really keep doing what they're doing and expect to win week in and week out when you have some baseline competent opponents that aren't Lincoln Riley's dumbass or PJ Fleck.
Fair.
Now, do you have a wouldn't it be funny game for me?
I do, and it's a matchup between a team that I think we've probably had in Wouldn't It Be Funny quite a few times, and it might be the first for another. Take me to the 3:30 slot. We have Iowa and Ohio State. In Columbus, Ohio State just hasn't really played anybody. Would be very funny for Iowa to do the thing.
to do the Iowa thing.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa's 1-0 in the Big Ten. They have a non-con loss, but I guess was Iowa State, right? Is that
Iowa State.
yeah? But yeah, I don't know. I just love when Iowa fucks stuff up in the Big Ten and creates chaos. So that's my funny pick of the week.
Honest, I don't. It's funny. It's like I don't hate it because they're running the ball really well right now. Their running back, Caleb Johnson, is really, really like returning to that Iowa running back form they had. They haven't had a good running back in quite some time. I don't know how you stop Jeremiah Smith, who already has 19 catches for 364 yards and 5 scores. But we said the same thing about several other Ohio State teams that ended up doing the thing to Iowa. So
Yeah, and hey, part of the wouldn't it be funny is that we don't need a blueprint for it. We don't say how it's going to happen. We just laugh when it does.
Okay, I'm gonna add a new dimension here to the wouldn't it be funny game.
Okay.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how funny would it be?
Okay. Yeah, you're right, because there are some that are funnier than others. I think this one's more of like it's not that high because it wouldn't be like Ohio State like detrimental. They could still rip off some wins and do their thing. I just think it's funny because of the chaos it kind of creates across the Big Ten. So I'll go with like right in the middle, like a 5.4.
I'm
the
feeling
funny
a
scale.
little bit higher here. I'm gonna say this is a 6.5,
Okay.
just because it's Iowa.
And I guess they get a couple extra points for the way. They would probably have to win this game, right? They'd probably have to have some special teams fuckery and stuff like that going down. That would make it a little bit goofier.
Yeah, they'd win by picking off Iowa State 5 times. Like
Yeah.
that one
time. Just like there's an insane stat that you're just like, okay. Well.
Yeah, like Cade McNamara is a terrible quarterback. They're not going to outduel Will Johnson, but hey, what if they get 5 picks?
Yeah.
So, but it's too early for any of these games to be approaching the 9-10 mark. Like a true week 10, 11, 12, 13 faceplant is where we're finding the most value.
And I think like the 8s, 9s, and 10s have like more storylines to go along with them, whether it be a revenge game or, you know, coach said something about them in the offseason, kind of like that. That's what gets it up in the funnier scales, I think.
Okay, so I'm gonna say I think I have a baseline for a 10.
Okay.
And that is when on SoCon Saturday, I believe it was last year, that Auburn face plants and loses to New Mexico State at home.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Because
that's
they were
fighting.
One. They were fighting for bowl eligibility. I believe they were 5-5. And they obviously have Alabama the week after. And then they basically get stoned to death by New Mexico State, one of the most moribund programs in FBS history. So I think that's sort of our baseline for a 10.
Yeah, I would agree. That's up there.
Now, because Kent is sort of in federal penitentiary, I do have a Christmas game of the week. This one is actually pretty good. Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State unbeaten. Sort of looking to be one of those teams in the mix for the Big 12 title race. I kind of forgot about them, but they might sort of be like that number 2, number 3 team in the mix with Kansas State. Iowa State's 11.5-point home favorite.
I just realized that like the Big 12 in football is what people thought they were in basketball, where they just had like in basketball, all the analysts just thought that every team in the Big 12 was good. And then it came to the tournament. That wasn't really the case. That might just be the case with Big 12 football. They might have a lot of good teams. None of them are going to win the national championship, but all of them are pretty good.
Yeah, in the 4-team playoff era, they would have a lot of good bowl performances.
Yes,
this year.
Yeah, like they might fill up the playoff with. They might get two teams. We'll see how it shakes out, but
I don't know about that one. But
a lot of good teams.
A lot of bowl eligible teams.
The Big 12 football Conference is very nice, and they're a gentleman.
They're a conference you take home to your family. You say, Mama, this conference been in 4 time zones.
Oh, that's funny.
Who you got? Iowa State or Baylor here?
Dude, I feel like I haven't watched a single snap of Baylor.
It's
Or
okay,
really,
they're bad.
yeah. And 11.5 in Ames seems like not enough. Give me Iowa.
I'm also going to go Iowa State. Maybe a better pick would have been Hawaii, San Diego State, but
I
I don't
mean,
know.
the Baylor Iowa State's more of a Christmas matchup in my opinion. San Diego State got a lot of that. I guess they rock some red sometimes, but I think like their primary color more is black. I don't know.
Yeah. You're right. Okay. Unless you've got any other games you want to point out here, I think that'll do it for us. Let me just double check my notes here. Yep. I'm seeing
I'm
a
good.
no. All
I'm good.
right. So, thank you once again for listening in. If you like the show, follow us on Twitter at Simple5Pod. Rate the podcast 5 stars. Leave us a review. It helps us out a ton. We'll obviously see you next week, but we might have a special episode coming out later this week. See you next time.
Hail to Pitt.
Make Mac Brown retire.
That was Kent.